that you're coming out to start gathering information about the process for this next exciting chapter in your lives, or your children's lives. I can just say that working with Olim for many years and being an Olam myself, I know that it doesn't matter how long you've been in Israel. Some of you might be here within your first year of Aliyah. Some of you, can I say some of you are fairly new Olim within a year? Okay, and some of you might be here for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and so on. When it's your first child going into the Army, starting the process for national service in any of the frameworks, it's like making Aliyah all over again. There's so much information, and I'm not saying this to overwhelm you, but I've gone through it myself, and I've been here a long time. But when my first daughters started the process, should they go to the Army, should they do Sheirut Leumi, it was so much new information, and I was really glad to have people to turn to and ask questions to, and we hope that you'll use us as a resource and ask all your questions and continue to be in touch with us throughout the process. Even like learning all the language, I don't know if you've heard some of the Army terminology, but it's like going to Ulpan all over again. It's really like its own language, and it's sitting around the table hearing like soldiers talking in English but using all their Army terms. It's really like learning a whole new language. So what we want to try to do for you tonight, or to provide in our program, is some of the beginning, an outline of what to start to get to know as you look into the Army process, or national service process, or help you're doing it yourselves, or helping your children in the process. Some of you might be in schools that are going to start giving a lot of information, especially as you get closer to 12th grade. And some of you might be looking for more information in other ways. Definitely encourage you to speak to older young men and women in your neighborhood, what programs they chose to do, how they went through the process, what they're doing in the Army, what they're doing in national service, getting as much information from the people around you to help you, because those are going to be important resources. So I'm going to tell you what we're going to do tonight, and introduce you to who's going to speak. I'm Karen Richmond. I'm here from the Post Aliyah Department at Nefesh B'Nefesh, and I'm very happy to answer your questions or guide you in the process for Army and Sheirut Leumi. Specifically, I offer information about Sheirut Leumi. I want to introduce Reuven, who is going to speak next. Reuven will introduce himself about who he is, but we're really happy to have him as part of the Nefesh B'Nefesh staff. Specifically, he works with the Lone Soldier program, which, as you are here with your families, it's not you or your children will not be lone soldiers, but so many of the questions, similar questions come up for fairly new Olim, starting the process and learning about the process. I want to introduce Jake, who is a Chayal Boded here, and he's going to tell you what his experience is like. He's a lone soldier, but so much of the process is the same for those of you who are here with your families. And Rachel, who is here from Aluma. Aluma is an organization that advocates and guides young religious women who are choosing or want to find out more about their options in IDF service, and they've done a tremendous amount of great work helping girls, young women, young religious women finding great service in the Army, and she'll tell you about what they do. Also with us today are Leah and Leora and Devorah, who are Nefesh B'Nefesh Banot Sheirut Leumi. There are national service young women who they'll tell you a little bit about how they decided to do Sheirut Leumi and what they learned in going through the process, and how they found the jobs that are good for them and how you could find those jobs too. So we hope this is an informative evening for you, and as we go along, you can have time to ask questions or say at the end.
Hey everybody, I'm Reuven Jacobs. You all, first of all, I associated a quick question, but you all Olim here. Has anybody had, this is your first child going into the Army, right? Everybody? Okay, perfect. I'm Reuven Jacobs. I made Aliyah from Australia. I know I've lost my accent. Sorry. I'm working on it. I married an American and gone out the window. I came in 2006. I went to a Hesder Yeshiva. I'm not in the program of Hesder. I ended up staying, I was like a year of studying, 2 years of studying, don't want to go home, 3 years of studying. Ended up drafting to the army, doing a full 3-year service. Studied in Bar-Ilan University here, and now work for Nefesh B'Nefesh. As Karen said earlier, I work in the Lone Soldier Department. We have a team that works with the Chaylim Bodedim in everything they need for the army, whether it's financial assistance, normal assistance, placement, bureaucratic issues, we're here for them. And we also help children from the Olim families with army problems as well. It's slightly different, but most of the principles and the problems are very common between the two groups. The Lone Soldiers are in fact Olim as well. The difference is just they don't have a family here, or they're direct rural families, they find families pretty quickly. And most of the army issues are very the same, whether it's language, integrating society, or just coming from a country like America or Australia or a normal place without a conscription into the army, and you don't have to deal with these kind of issues. Okay, so first we're going to start with a basic view of view of what the army is like and what the little few things about it really quickly. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty parts, and then questions and answers as well as experience from Jake. So there's the three groups. You have combat people going into the infantry units, Golani, Givati, Kfir, all the places I'm sure you've heard of. You have the tanks in the Navy. You have combat support, which are everybody who teaches people in the other units or does logistics and all those kind of things. And then you have non-combat, which is the Kesher Chutz, disposed people unit, or Ritzal, all those kind of units. They're the kind of people also who do 9-to-5 jobs, so they're able to go home every night. Generally given to those with a lower profile, we'll get to that in a moment, or people who have special skills that will help them in that field more than sending them into the standard combat units. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Tzav Rishon. Has everybody here not done the Tzav Rishon yet? So everybody has a child that hasn't? Okay. So I'm going to go through it all anyway. We're going to do Tzav Rishon, placement, shibutz, get used to that word. They're going to use it a lot on the phone when the army's speaking to you or anything else. Atudat Olim, and then other frameworks that you can go into the army doing, whether it's studying first degrees and other things. Michvei on the Hebrew course, and other further information about all different units, specific things in the army. Okay, so Tzav Rishon is normally down the age of 16 to 17 to kids in high school. They'll go during 11th grade normally, they'll go through their profile, go back to school, and that way the army has time to prepare what they want to do with them, and then they can have about a few months after school before they get drafted. Okay? If you've made Aliyah a while ago, more than a few years, like and they came to school early enough, they would have done it already when they were 16 or 17. A lot of times, if you're close to that age, they won't send you or make you do it. They'll wait till later on. You're gonna call, something in the mail, or SMS these days. They're catching up to technology slowly. They got the SMS now. Just got rid of the fax machine. Slowly getting there. It's also their first meeting with the army and determines a lot. It's a very important meeting that will determine where they're going, what they can apply for, what they can do, and their best chance to get the job they want in the army. Okay. Make sure it'll be included in what they tell you, and make sure they take a form of identification, all medical, psychological, and recommendation papers. Recommendation papers, I'm referring to things if you want to get into paramedics units or those kind of things, and you've done time in EMT training or you've done MUD or other things, bring those in. They do help. It does help in the army to have letters from places saying, no, I do recommend that he can get into this kind of a program. Or whether it's the communications unit, yes, he's done extra units in journalism, whatever it is, it's great. It's something which you can definitely do. They do help with placement. And if you already have a university degree, then how relevant that is to anybody here, but if they did, also take it with them and be able to tell them what they have and what their degree's in. I'll go through why in a moment. It's Tzav Rishon. Most of you have done it, for those who haven't. It consists of 4 main steps. Okay, you'll have the beginning is, and the floors in the building are divided by colors. That's why it's colors here. So I'll tell you sometimes go to the red floor, yellow floor, so make sure your child knows these colors when he gets there. It does help. Basically the 4 main steps that you have to do is a personal interview right at the beginning, and that's where they're going to have to say, I want to go into this kind of unit, I want to go into combat, I want to go into a special unit, I want to go into communications, or anything like that, any specifications. After they'll be accompanied by a Hebrew test. Now the Hebrew test is not a test you're thinking of sitting down like psychometry or something else. it's done right in front of the person. They'll talk to you for a bit in Hebrew, they'll judge how your responses are. It's not based on how many mistakes you make, it's your grasp of the language. You're making little grammatical errors, they can fix, it's something you'll pick up over time. You want to make sure that you can grasp the language, you understand context, and you understand how the language works. You'll do a written test, I'll give you something to write out. Please write 5 lines about where you live. Something very simple, again, not for spelling mistakes, to see that you know how to write and you can follow the context of what you're doing. And then a reading test. They'll give you a certain paragraph. Your child will have to read through it and understand not every word. My paragraph was about migrating whales down south. I had no idea of half the words. They understand the concept that someone's trying to get somewhere, they're trying to do this. You can learn the vocab afterwards. Then you'll have the psychotechnic exam, which is kind of like the Israeli equivalent of an IQ test, very similar. Make sure if there are native English speakers to request to do it in English. English is a 40-minute test, or even less sometimes. The Hebrew is 2.5 hours. And it's a lot of Hebrew. So make sure you do request to do it in English. And then you have a medical physical, which is a very basic physical that you'll do. Americans are normally more used to it because in America they do it once a year. A lot of people do physicals here once a lifetime. And it's here at the Tzar Rishon. And they'll give them their profile scores. The profile scores everybody talks about, there's no 100, it's out of 100, but it starts, the highest you can get is 97. And that's the highest, and that gets you into any combat unit, and also the special forces, as well as the Air Force. Okay, you have to have a 97 or there's no above, which is 97. 82 is infantry. It's possible to get to certain Sairot once you're in, but generally it goes straight to Nolim and Tzanchanim as well. 72 is your tanks, artillery, other kind of combat units, but not as physical, so to speak, as the first two. And then you have the non-combat scores. Anything between 45 to 64 is, you go to the army, non-combat, spokesperson's unit, you're going through international relations, communications, any of those, as well as logistics, and there's a whole a plethora of jobs, you might say. 24 is a temporary profile. It means they don't know what to do with you yet. Let's say you have a medical, your knee injury or something else and it's getting better, or they don't know what's going to happen. They'll give it to you for the time being, and they'll reassess you later on. And 21 is not fit for military service, for either physical medical conditions, psychological, or anything else. These can be changed if your child does go to get the Tzar Rishon, or if you go to Tzar Rishon, and they give you a certain score, you can request for them to do another test. You do need a kind of a good reason, whether it's, oh, I was injured back then, or here's a note from another doctor that says, in fact, I can do this, and they can reassess and raise your profile score. Tzar Rishon, the scoring for exams, as I said before, you have a Hebrew test. The Hebrew test goes from 2 to 9, okay? Israelis don't all get 9. So when they come back with a score, don't feel too bad about it. Anything up to 6, including 6. Now 6 is kind of a number where, depending on how many people get it, they'll decide whether you're going to move on or not. And 6 and below is supposed to go to the Hebrew Upancha. Okay, that's at Michvei Elam. Anything to 7, 8, 9, and sometimes the 6. So they said it's on the on the lip there, it's on the edge. You will be sent to the Hebrew course. Above, you get to go straight into the army with the normal Israeli drafts and a special course for Olim. The power is a score they give you based on your psychological results. They give you through the interview and other things. It requires certain scores to get to certain units and certain leadership positions, as well as the kavod, which is more reflective on your IQ. These will come into play soon when I start talking about the Atudah program, which is studying through the army, and Atudah Tovim. Okay, very quickly, the enlistment dates. There's the 3 main drafts every year: March, August, November. Clearly, whoever wrote this was American. I didn't write it. We start from March in Australia. And then you have the non-combat courses, mostly in July, September, December, and April. But they do happen also depending on the unit's needs. It can happen at any time during the year. Don't be surprised if they get a very weird draft date. Keep in mind, Olim that draft normally are about 3 weeks before the normal draft. So it could be in July, it could be in October, and it could be in February, because they do have preparation courses for Olim sometimes, as well as Hebrew refreshers, so to speak. Okay, your placement in the army. This is a big thing we deal with, a lot of chayrim that go in, because a lot of jobs aren't so suitable for the Olim that are going in, whether it's a language barrier or just a knowledge barrier. And of course, everybody comes in wants to go where they want to go. A lot of Olim come and want to get as high as they can and try to get wherever they want to be. They don't always get there, but we try our best. But there are 3 things the Army takes into account, okay? number one on the list is Army requirements. It's the most important thing. If they need something, they'll get it done. They'll put you there. They don't really care about everything else. But if they can make you happy by what you wanted, and they can also see that you're suitable for it, it definitely does help. But this is always the final say in the matter, is what they need and what they want. Okay, so going into elite units. Most of the Olim Americans, when they come, they want to get there. Not everybody, but most. Too many Rambo movies as a child, maybe. But they come across this 2 tryouts a year for Yom Seirot. Okay, that's a concept. It's like a it's like an elite day, so to speak. They have one big test, and it's an entrance exam to get into 3 or 4 different other tryouts for the special units. It's twice a year. Keep that in mind. So you have more you do want it. You're gonna have to push off your draft sometimes. You have to speak to the Army early on. If your kid wants to get there, speak to them early on in the process to make sure they can reserve that spot. You must have a 97 profile, 52 kava, and at least a 7 on your Hebrew score. Okay? Once you get past, you get sent to the elite units, Matkal, Shayetet, Shesheshtesham, which is the search and rescue, and Chovlim, which is the admiral course. Okay? Females, isn't that missing there? Sorry about that, emails. I'm very briefly going to talk about it because just a general draft. Rachel from Aluma. Rachel, sorry. Oh, wait, Rachel, that's right. I was going to talk in detail about it, just focusing on the female draft as well as the religious draft. Basically, they have something called the Yom HaMeir at the beginning, which is going to elaborate on what it is. You'll get a list of options that they get to draft into. You pick what you want from your list, and they'll let you know what you're going to be doing about a month before you draft. That's the general way for girls to do it. People who go to Mikveh Elan don't always get Yom HaMeir. Some girls don't get it. And that's because during the Hebrew course in Mikveh Elan, you will get to meet a Kitzin Miyun. It's called a placement officer, and they'll assess everything then instead of doing Yom HaMeir. So if you haven't got Yom HaMeir or your child hasn't got one, don't freak out yet. Definitely contact us. I'm going to give you information at the end, and we'll see why they haven't got it. That's a general draft for girls. If the general serving time is 24 months for girls going in, if they do choose to do combat, which they can do in the IDF, they have to sign for a full service, which is 32 months. Okay? Okay, so we're going to skip that one. We'll let Michal go to there. Atudah. This is a program if you want your child to do a program where they will do learn a degree through the Army and be able to work in that field. Okay? It means that they're going to get paid for their education in the university. They get monitored the whole time they're through there. They have to get certain grades. It's kind of like a scholarship. Once they finish, they have to serve with their full service they were supposed to do, sometimes plus more depending on what degree it was and how long it took. Basically what happens is they will let you defer your service while you go to the college, to university. You sign up online, you put in your first form, they'll contact you, and you really have to have good results in your test. So if you haven't finished school, tell them to study out and study hard. Psychometric test is the most important. It's the SAT or ACT, what's the other one? ACT, yeah. So that kind of equivalent test you do in Israel. Every university, every course has a specific score you need to get in. For Atudah, think higher because they're going to take the best they can get to go into certain degrees. So you can really get the highest score you can get, apply to the university. Once you get accepted, then you can apply through the course. You tell the Army, I'm interested in doing Atudah. You apply to the university. Included in the sign-up form for Atudah, for the scholarship program, is your acceptance letter from the university. And then once that goes through, they will pay for your degree. And then you, as I said, you serve your compulsory service, whatever it was beforehand, plus a few years of cover, depending on what the degree was. Atudat Olim. This probably isn't relevant for anybody here, but I'll talk about it very quickly. Anybody here very recently? And okay, so for those who have recently made Aliyah, if their child or whoever it is drafting has been in the country for less than 18 months since they made it, since they came for their trip, clarify with me afterwards for those that are relevant. They can apply something called Atudat Olim. What that means is the Army takes advantage of your Aliyah rights, of the benefits you get from making Aliyah, of your free education. They will let you defer the Army, but go your own education. You'll pay for it using your free benefits. You'll finish university and then go back and serve what you're supposed to do. Okay? You must start within 18 months of your age of arrival. That means when you came before Aliyah. and then they'll let you do the program and then serve afterwards. All right, other options that we have I'm going to talk about quickly. We have Hesder. Hesder, is, most people do know what it is. It's a combination of yeshiva and a 17-month service in the IDF. Basically, you go in with your whole yeshiva, your whole unit, go into the army together. Now, the length varies based on the criteria. Olim Chadashim, who came before they were 17, end up falling to the normal Israeli category, and that's 44 months service. It's 44 months, 17 in yeshiva, plus the rest in, 17 in the army, plus the rest in yeshiva. If they're Oleh Chadash, they made Aliyah after they were 18 and are now drafting, they do less. They do 38 months. That was their program. It was 38 months, means 17 in yeshiva, in the army, and slightly less yeshiva time. That is applied through the something called Iguda Hesder. It's also online. At the end, you'll see information for it, where you can sign up online, and then you get your exemption, and you move on to the Hesder track. You have Mechinot. Mechinot is where you defer your army service for 12 to 18 months to study. Now, these are special Mechinot Kedem Tzvai, it's called. It's kind of a military academy, I guess they call them back overseas. It's a school endorsed by the army where you have permission to push off your service to study in there. If you leave at any point, they know, and they will bring your draft earlier, and you won't get that whole year off before you start. There's religious ones, secular, and mixed. So if it's when you want to learn some Torah for a year, go to yeshiva. There are mechinot for that. If it's just you want to study general stuff, whether it's reading your psychometry or learning general degree, like general trades or anything else, and also, as well as mixed, we can do a nice little like rounded program on both sides of the spectrum. Then you have Shurut Lomi. For girls, you get a religious exemption or any kind of exemption. It can also be a medical exemption. They can apply for Shurut Lomi. You can talk about Shurut Lomi? Karen's going to go over the whole topic. Okay, awesome. So very briefly, they're exempt from the army completely. As a fill-in, they're able to apply for Shurut Lomi, where they get placement in a large range of different jobs and things that generally help the national service, generally help the country, like Nefesh B'Nefesh. And Karen's going to elaborate on how that process works and what to do and how to go about it. Mikveh Elam. Does anybody here know that they have to go to Mikveh Elam, to the Hebrew Ulpan course? Anybody? No? So I'll go through it anyways, it's okay. Mikveh Elam means that you had a below 6 or below Hebrew score. Don't worry, a lot of people get it. Okay? It's basically an Ulpan course for 3 months before your army service. It will count as your army service no matter what. There's no way to make it a pre-army Ulpan. But, when was it service?
Last March.
Okay, so once you've done Teflon, you're able to retake the Hebrew test before your draft date. And if you score above a 6 the second time, they will take you out of Mikveh Elam and they'll put you into a normal draft and you won't have to go to the army Ulpan. If you go to an Ulpan, if you do your Tzav Rishon or your child does it soon, then they get it below 6. If they go to a registered Ulpan, that means a real Ulpan, they can take tests after 3 months of waiting. They retake the test, if they get above a 6, they get to leave Mikveh Elam. It's a 3-month Hebrew test, 8 hours a day of like Ulpan kind of studying, and during the process you will do basic training as well, very quickly, very briefly, like at night times, morning, then at the end you'll catch up on another whole lot of basic training, and then you will join the other units that are already drafted. They draft 3 months before every draft we saw. So there's one in April, there's one in August, because it's just before, and then there's one in December time. It's up north, it's pretty far away, it's been annoying to get to, so really study up in the Hebrew, so we don't have to go. And those people will get their jobs at the end of Mikveh Elam. You have a meeting, you'll see the placement officer, you'll tell them what you want to do, they'll assess your Hebrew, then they'll give you your jobs. There's a second part of Mikveh Elam that is also before about a course for Olim. All Olim that come to join the army get to go to something, it's a course for Olim called Yachash, or course Zika. It's the two names for the same thing, pretty much. It depends, it goes from 3 weeks to 9 weeks, depending where you're going in the army. And it's to get you used to like the society, the people, the slang of the army, as Karen said, it's a whole different Hebrew. Everything's just like acronyms. Like you have a whole sentence of like 30 different words, and it's like 8 letters. You just say the letters, and everybody knows what you're saying. You learn about that culture. You go to museums. You learn about Israeli history. You really get to mitchaber, as they say, to what you're doing. If you don't want to go, you can get out of it. So if you feel like you've been here long enough and you don't want to be there, you can get out of it by requesting. And these drafts also be slightly before the normal draft dates. I think it's a big plus. It really does help when you get in there, as well as the fact that you go in knowing people already once you do draft. At the end, I'll put this back up. People can write it down because I don't know anybody running here and trying because they can and getting worried. I believe it's also in the information booklet. Okay, so good luck. I'm going to get Jake to talk for a few minutes first on his experience going through as an Ole in the army, meaning the language, the people, what was hard, and a few tips. And then I'm going to take questions and answers from everybody. If anybody has a personal question as they don't want to bring onto the floor, I'll be here afterwards as well that you can speak to.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Goldson. Just a little bit about me. 23 years old. I grew up in St. Louis. Went to college in New York, Queens College. Didn't really like it so much, so I decided to come here to Israel just to take a breath. And I really love living here, so I decided to make Aliyah. Made Aliyah this past summer. Decided if I was going to live here, I should do the army because it's like the best way to incorporate yourself into Israeli society. Every Israeli goes through it, and it's like a shared experience, and you really get to experience the culture. I drafted into the army through Gerin Zabar. I don't know if anybody knows it. It's a program they place Olim Chadashim who are going to the army, and only to the army, into on kibbutzim. So I live on a kibbutz in the north called Mali Gavua. It's an awesome place. It's a little hard to get to. But other than that, it's amazing. It's on a mountaintop. It's really quiet. Really amazing view. So I went there in August, and there was it's like a paraklita. It's called like it's klita, absorption process. And we had an Opan course, and Mishpachot Me'amsot, which are adopted families, and it was really nice. There's 15 of us living there. Chaylim Bodedim from all over America, from Germany, France, England, South Africa. It's a really awesome group of people. We all of us drafted in November. I drafted in November to Nachal, which is one of the infantry units that you did not mention. It's an amazing place. Nachal is known for having good quality people, and the only thing I've seen being there is that there's really amazing people. Within each of the Khir units, Khir is Khil Regalim, which is infantry. Except for Khir, there's a unit called the Gatsar. It's slightly advanced, and it's a longer training course. It's a year and 2 months. A year and 4 months of training right off the bat. So that's where I am. You have to go through a gibush once you get to Nachal. So within Nachal, within Gibati, Sanchanim, and Gibati, and Golani, they have 3-4 day gibush, which is a test to see who can be in that Gatsar. It was a rough 4 days, a lot of crawling through sand and thorns and sprinting and carrying sandbags and sleeping on rocks. It was really uncomfortable, but it feels good once you finish it, but then you realize that you really haven't done anything. The training starts. So it was good though. It was really an amazing experience. I worked really hard to be ready for it. But it's really about the mindset. If you go in and you're like, I'm going to finish it, you'll be able to finish it. It's not like the craziest thing in the world. It's not like Gibush Makal and Shayetet. Those are really crazy. I had no interest in doing that. But yeah, but the benefit of being the Gatsar is that it's just Nachal is a place known for having really good people, so their best unit is going to have even better people. I'm with amazing guys. The smallest unit in the army is called the Kita. There's 12, 13 of us, and really I love all of them. It's only been 2 months, but when you go through it, when you spend all day with people, learn a lot about them, and go out into the Shatach for 2 weeks, sleep with 3 people in a 2-man tent, so you become friends. Yeah, the army's hard. I mean, there's no other way to put it. If you go to Krabi, you're going to have a lot of hard times and annoying times. My knees really hurt, but it feels really good to be doing something purposeful, and I really like it a lot. I'm really happy with my decision so far. It's only been 2 months. Let's see what happens in the next 2.5 years. But so far, so good. I would say the number one thing, everyone told me before I went to the army, work on your Hebrew. I didn't work on it enough. I didn't have to go to Mikveh Adam, fortunately. I've heard good things and bad things about it. I have a lot of friends who have both gone through it and are in it right now. And some of them love it, some of them hate it, some of them are very indifferent. It all comes down to attitude in the army. If you have a good attitude, you'll succeed. But really work on your Hebrew now, because it's the most important thing. That's all you hear all day. For the first couple of weeks of my army service, I went to bed every night not being able to think, because you're just thinking, you're translating every single word that you hear into Hebrew. And this is already being on a kibbutz for 3 months, and all the administrators and my family on the kibbutz only speak to us in Hebrew, but you're with your friends, speaking in English together when you're on your free time. And then to go from listening to orders and trying to become friends with Israelis, it's really hard in Hebrew. So work on your Hebrew as hard as you can now, because it will pay off. And if your Hebrew is good, it'll put you in better places. And that's probably the most important thing about the army. Go and get the best that you can, because otherwise you may be miserable. Nobody wants that. I'm very fortunate. I got my first choice. I put down Nachal as where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the Gunsar, and I'm there. And so I'm happy right now. It doesn't happen to everybody. I have a number of friends who didn't get what they wanted. They're sort of sad and depressed. But that's part of the army. It's why you're signing up. You're signing up to serve and to fulfill a purpose. And if that's what they tell you that you need to do, go do it, and do it with a smile on your face, because you'll do a better job. And yeah, and that's about it. Yeah, good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
That's it.
Good job.
Thank
Yeah, so we stay here for questions if there are any direct to you. Does anybody have any questions about what we've talked about so far, or anything you want to know? This is awesome. This is a good time. I'm like, great, I nailed everything. No one had any questions.
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Do you have an email address?
I do. I'm going to give out my card in a second. I was going to go to the back, or at the end possibly. It has my email address and my direct phone number, my cell phone. Feel free to call me for anything. But do tell me your name as soon as I answer, because I have a lot of people calling every day. And if I forget your name in the future, I really apologize. I deal with like 30, 40 people a day, just like the same topic. So it's like, don't know who you are, really tell me who you are. Say you came to this evening, like we came from Info Night, and I already know what to do and what we're going to talk about. And then email is definitely the best way to do it. I always get back to them within a very short time frame. Calling, a lot of times it's busy. You can try, you might get a bit annoyed trying to call. Email is definitely the way to go, of any question of any kind, okay? And there's no other questions? All right, I'll be here at the end as well for questions about personal questions, or something that you didn't want to talk about in front of everybody, or just you didn't want to waste everybody's time for 20 minutes on certain issues, in general. So we're gonna move on now.
Okay.
I'll start in the meantime. Hi. My name is Raquel. I also made Aliyah 20 years ago, so I was with my parents. My Hebrew is actually much better than my English, so feel free to, I might get mixed up and I might say some things in Hebrew, so I'm sorry in advance. So I made Aliyah 20 years ago. I grew up here. before I went into the Army, I did a program, it's called Midrasha. It's pretty much like seminary, but for Israeli girls. There were American girls where I was. It's called En Netziv, so if anyone wants to ask me about Midrashot or things like that after, I can tell you by my personal experience. Afterwards, I drafted into the Army. I was a Morach Hayelet. I worked in a youth village with kids that were taken out of their homes for many different reasons. I helped them with their process going to the Army. Then I became Mifakadet. I was in charge of a lot of soldiers. And today I study in Bar Ilan and I work for Aluma. So Aluma is it's an NGO. Don't forget this kind of thing. Okay, it was established 30 years ago from problems that they saw that religious girls had in the Army. Now, being a girl in the Army is hard enough. You're already a minority. Being a religious girl in the Army is even harder. So pretty much this organization started because they saw that there's so many girls that they're really, really good and they could do amazing things and they could be in the Army, but they're like falling between the cracks. Say that in English? Okay. In Hebrew it's between the seats. So they fall between the cracks and pretty much this organization just wants to help them. So what I'm going to say, I'm going to talk about something that's relevant to all girls, the Yom HaMe'ah, and then I'm going to talk about Alima, which is relevant only for religious girls that want to go into the Army. So this is just all these things that I spoke about.
Wait, go back one thing. Sorry, Rachel. That's what a Tzad Rishon looks
this is what
like.
a
So if
Tzad
you
Rishon
haven't
looks
gotten
like.
it, it comes in the mail like that, but it's like green,
It's
right?
in purple.
Oh, okay.
It's purple. This is it's in purple. I'll tell you, pretty much you get a few forms with it. One is a form that you have to take to your family doctor. They need to fill it out for you. You can also take a urine test beforehand and bring the results, or you do that on the day of the Yom HaMe'ah. It's part of the medical station. Over here it explains where you need to go, at what time. It's very important to come on time, to come with your Teudat Zehut, and to rest before because it's a long day and it's a little bit tiring, a lot.
And there's bus tickets.
Yeah, and there's also bus tickets that way you don't have to pay. These are the bus tickets. You tear them out and the bus drivers know what to do. So that's for boys and girls. Okay, I think I said all that. If you have any documents beforehand, it's best to fax them in and also bring them with you. If you have something, I don't know how to say hakalot in English. It's
Leniencies for any learning issues, disabilities, anything that you would want to show that you would need or benefit from extra help, a longer time to take the exam, bring it with you because they should give you extra time
that way
and help.
they help you with the test that you need to take on the computer.
It will only help you, it won't hurt you at all.
Exactly. It doesn't hurt you whatsoever, but you need to fax it in beforehand, and you should also bring it with you the day